So good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Top Talk guest photographer session. Hi, Hannah. I can hear you, so I guess I've got you back.
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
We had a little techie issue just now, but you're sounding crystal clear, Hannah, so it doesn't look.
Good. Sorry.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I mean, we've been chatting for a while now, and after seeing actually a blog post that you wrote about Instagram, and obviously you and I have had a bit of an in-depth chat about it, but the Photographer Academy, and I'm ashamed to say it, is, we don't have Instagram, and that is going to change as of tomorrow, I've been
Yeah.
informed. So
Yeah.
so tonight I'm learning as much as everybody else, so it's great that you're going to give us the sort of insight and the sort of how to get started with Instagram. Before we do, get into Instagram and everything, Hannah, just tell us a little bit about you, sort of how you got into it, really, how you got into photography and where you've got to where you are on Instagram today.
I got into photography literally through Instagram. It was when my youngest was about a year old, which is nearly 3 years ago, and my husband was really enjoying using it and finding great photography accounts from all over the world. He really encouraged me to download the app and showed me how to find interesting people to follow. And I became a regular user and started joining in with some photo a day projects, which really got me creatively thinking, which had been the first time in a few years that I'd sort of unlocked that creative side of myself, and it was a distraction from looking after young children, and I started to really enjoy it. So at the time I was just using a BlackBerry phone, believe it or not, to take photos, which has an awful camera on it. I'd never thought about composition. I didn't even know you could edit photos, and there were apps that you could do that with on your phone, which is quite strange really that I'd never considered photography, because my greatest love at school was drawing and painting, and I have a history of art degree, so I'm familiar with all the theory, but I had just never applied it to taking photos. And then I soon began to get frustrated with the equipment I was using and picked up our family point and shoot camera, learnt to use it in manual mode, and bought my first DSLR, which was a second-hand Nikon D90 and a 50mm lens around 2.5 years ago. And I just loved that camera. It finally became less of a frustration and more something that I could achieve what I was hoping for in my mind's eye. 6 months after that, I started taking photos for friends and their kids, and my business grown from there really. I upgraded to a full frame camera about 2 years ago, started shooting in RAW using Lightroom and Photoshop and collecting lenses, and it all began with Instagram, and I credit the app completely with my passion for photography.
And not just passion, I mean, it's huge for you now, isn't it? It really has, given you a photography business as well, isn't it?
Yes, it has, which I never expected, and that's really something which has taken me by surprise over the last 9 months maybe. It wasn't what I set out to achieve at all. It's just been sticking an email address in my profile, and this has happened. So yeah.
No, it's brilliant. I mean, you've amazed us here, and so like I said, I'm intrigued to learn as much as I can tonight. And it's no discredit to your photography, because your photography is beautiful. I've told you this before, so obviously the two do go hand in hand. Now, I'm going to hand you the screen, and I'll stick with you now and make sure everything is clear and we can see everything. So it's coming over to you now. So I'm going to go quiet. I'll just interrupt if I've got any questions for you, if we're having any techie problems, and it's all over to you. All yours.
Okay, so first things first, I guess, what is Instagram? Very simply, it's a photo sharing app and social media. Similar to Twitter, it's geared more towards connecting people around the world than connecting you with your mates. We've got Facebook for that, although the recent Facebook takeover of Instagram seems to be trying to change that a little. What sets Instagram apart from Facebook and Twitter is that it's mostly about visual media, the photos and the videos that people share. Social media is big business these days, and Instagram is currently the fastest growing social media with 400 million users. It's surpassed Twitter in number of users, and although it's not as big as Facebook, it's growing faster. It's as one of the biggest social media platforms, businesses seem to have sat and taken note of everything and everybody seems to be wanting a piece of this action. I've definitely noticed a big change in the last 6 to 9 months. And many businesses seem to be using Instagram as their main marketing platform now, and agencies are setting up dedicated to connecting businesses with Instagram influencers. So I think it's definitely a platform that's worth taking note of if you have a photography business that you are wishing to promote. Let's go to the next slide. So aside from expanding your business reach, there are other factors why I feel it's a really useful app for a photographer to use. I still look for that daily hit of inspiration that made me want to learn photography in the beginning. Instagram's all about pictures. Pictures look great there. Things have changed a lot since the early days when you had to take and edit photos within the app. People now upload very sophisticated photos and videos. It's a simple app to use and navigate, and it's easy to find really great pictures there. The other reason is that encouragement, which I spoke about earlier. Lots of photographers don't know other photographers in their local area and don't have people to talk shop with. It's great meeting like-minded people from all over the world on Instagram who leave daily encouragement about your work. I'll discuss in more detail a bit later as to ways in which you can start to find your own community within Instagram. These are some examples from amazing galleries on Instagram, which, you know, it astonishes me every day really that people like this post the work for free for us all to see, which I just think is fantastic. These galleries are complete works of art, whether they're landscapes, portraits, or whatever else you like to see. There are great examples there to find. Another one here. Every day I get to fill my eyes with images like this, and it makes me want to be a better photographer every day. Obviously scrolling through your Facebook feed or Twitter or even Pinterest doesn't give you this same hit of inspiration. There's far more adverts and images of poor quality obstructing the view. Obviously these are huge accounts that aren't necessarily going to notice you if you start following them, but there are literally millions of smaller users who are also great photographers for you to network and connect with and talk about technique, etc. So hopefully I've convinced you that Instagram is a good place to be. And so if you're wondering how to get started setting up your account, I'm going to start right from the beginning. Setting up your profile. Put up a short biography, nothing too lengthy as it pushes the images in your gallery further away from sight. I've probably got an extra line in there, to be honest, that I could do without, but never mind. Remember that when people flick onto your gallery, they are going to judge you on that top couple of rows of images that they're going to see. So you don't want to put a huge, great big biography that's going to push those images away. Link to your website or Facebook page. That's a clicky link which will take people straight to my website, the little bit in blue. And then this is something which people often don't really consider because it's such a tiny little picture, but really think about your profile picture. Go for the wow factor. It's the way that in people's notifications they will see a recognisable picture crop up if you like people's pictures or if you're commenting regularly, even on big users. I have profile pictures which pop up in my notifications which I recognise immediately, and if that photo is a great photo, I'm more likely to pop over to that page and have a look at that person's work. So sell yourself with your profile picture and put something really good there. Don't be tempted to change it too often as well because, like I say, your profile picture becomes how people recognise your name and account. So just think about that little thumbnail. Simplicity works well, colour works well. These days, Instagram is not just about mobile photography. You can upload images taken with your camera, edited, watermarked if you wish, however you want to present them. That's how you post it to Instagram. So a few people asked about how to get DSLR images onto your phone, and this is something I actually get asked quite a lot on Instagram as well. I use either AirDrop or Dropbox, so I export the image from Lightroom or Photoshop just as a high resolution file as you would do normally for a customer. pop it in your Dropbox or AirDrop it to your mobile phone, and then you can just post it from there. If you don't have those facilities, if you're, you know, out and about, then you can just email it to yourself. Don't be afraid to mix iPhone images in with your work though. Just post, whatever you post, make sure it's of a quality you're proud of. Also, you may have edited something to your computer screen, but just check that edit on your mobile phone screen. Don't be ashamed to give things a slightly different edit for your Instagram page. Things look different on your mobile screen, and they can look different within a certain app as well. It's definitely worth having an Instagram feel to your pictures. Mobile editing apps such as Visco or VSCO can really help give your gallery a unified look, and it works well on Instagram. Next one, gallery planning. Instagram is a really useful tool for encouraging you to find your editing style. One of the biggest keys to success on Instagram is gallery layout and having a coherent style about all your pictures. As in the previous slides that I showed you, these galleries, they've got a really recognisable style, and that you can see how coherent their galleries look. There's a dominant colour and a dominant theme. I actually think this is a key to being a successful photographer, full stop though. If your work is consistent, people feel they know what to expect of you if they hire you as a photographer. For example, you might not have necessarily shot a christening before, but your client will expect those images to look like the rest of your portfolio. And I think this goes for Instagram as well, whatever you put up there. Be quite strict with yourself. If it doesn't fit, don't post it. And a couple of people did ask about having separate galleries for certain things. I'll come to that in a minute. But there's nothing quite like having to put one square next to another to make you examine your style, your editing, and really be critical of yourself. Sometimes to a detrimental level, but it's a useful exercise, I think. If you're doing this for your business and to expand your reach, then be strict and only post your very best pictures. If the style doesn't fit, leave it out. Think of your Instagram gallery as it's not a stream of images, but a curated collection that serves as a shop window as you for your photographer. And remember again, you will mainly be judged on this top few images. One of the trade secrets of Instagram is planning in advance. We used to do this using the Visco or VSCO gallery where you upload your images there, but they've recently changed that, and now it's not as easy to see clearly what you're doing. So there's been quite a few apps launched recently, and I've used several now. Some of them have ridiculously big subscription fees, and others are a bit messy. The best one I'm using currently is Unum. This screenshot here is a sample of my Instagram gallery from my Unum app. The little Instagram symbol you can see in the corner of the picture shows that it's already been posted. Above that, which I didn't give you a sneak preview of, is all my pictures which haven't yet been posted, which I line up there ready to see how it looks. This has been brilliant for me, and I've always been a fusspot over how my gallery looks, and I used to end up deleting a lot of images because it wasn't quite right, and I'd get a bit annoyed with how things would look, whereas now even if something at the top is standing out, I know I can work it in as it a bit further down, you know, like if I haven't posted a bright blue sky for a while, I think, oh gosh, that sticks out a bit, but as long as I post a bit more blue a few images later, then it all ties in nicely. And these planning apps are fantastic for doing that. I started pre-planning my gallery about 6 months ago, and I saw a big leap in new followers, and even now I'm convinced that I gain less followers if the top section of my gallery isn't looking quite as tidy as I like it to. So separate accounts for business and personal. It's not that I don't think you should bring your personal life into your business account. I actually really do. I think it helps. But if you're going to be tempted to post grainy front camera pictures from nights out, then yes, have a private account. I have a private account. I don't even like to post my rubbishy iPhone snaps from, in the house in poor light on my Facebook page, because I have friends on my Facebook page who expect all my photography to be good, and it's not. So I post my snapshots of my kids running about on family days out on a private page. So yes, it can be useful. It can be useful. Moving on. Okay, quite a few questions actually about square images. Personally, I love the 1:1 format, but I learnt to be a photographer on Instagram. But I know that this can be frustrating to crop. If you've perfectly composed a picture within the camera viewfinder, it can be frustrating to crop those square. The vast majority of people on Instagram post squares, so people who are scrolling their Instagram feed, that's generally what they are expecting to see. If you want to post rectangles, there are two options. You could use an app such as Square Ready, and there's plenty of these if you Google it. It's years since I've used one, so I'm not very up to date on a list of those, but they're easy to find. And they add in the little bit of white space at the sides of the image and prepare it into a square for you, so that when you post it on Instagram, it appears. This is my friend Rodrigo's feed here. He's one of my Instagram friends, and some people use this sort of creative layout, so one portrait, one landscape, which gives their gallery this unified look. If you post willy-nilly, it can start to look really messy and distracting to the eye. And I mean, honestly, I think the big key to gaining followers is to have a unified gallery look. So I would avoid posting willy-nilly, technical term there. The other option, Instagram did a fantastic update a few months ago now, and you can now post portraits or landscapes that will appear in the news feed as such, but in your gallery will pop into a square. I'll explain how to do this. So on the right is a screenshot from my Instagram app. So I went as if I was about to post a photo, and you can see at the top I have a folder in my iPhone called Still to Post, which is images in which I am umming and ahhing about whether I'll post. And then I've selected this one here because it's in landscape of my little boy. And then if you tap on the little arrows in the bottom left-hand corner of the frame, it will expand the image out into the full landscape format. You then press on Next, edit your image again if you want to, and press Post. It will appear as a rectangle in your newsfeed and as a square in your gallery. So it was actually, the white space isn't incredibly clear because it's a light image, but you can see how it's a square in the thumbnail at the bottom section of the screen. So that's how it would appear in your Instagram gallery, but it appears as the full landscape in your newsfeed. So that's two options for posting non-squares. Somebody also asked a question about whether I actually compose my images to be squares. Yes, I do. A lot of my Instagram feed is taken with my iPhone, so if I'm composing a flat lay or something and taking it with my iPhone, then it's composed as a square image. If I'm out shooting my kids with my camera, I think square through the viewfinder, which usually means pulling back a little bit, adding a little bit more negative space in the sky. So yeah, I do. I think differently when I'm doing a professional shoot with other people's children, knowing that I have the full frame. Right, where am I? Sorry, I've got lost.
Well, sorry, I'll interrupt there, Hannah, if you like. So while you just
Yeah,
get
please
yourself sorted,
do.
because I thought actually it's probably a really good time maybe to ask a few of the questions that have been coming through the question
Yeah,
panel.
sure.
But I am intently listening, as I said I would. So I guess this has come through a couple of times, and it's actually going to come from me as a question as well. So with actually regards to posting to Instagram itself, does that have to be done via a mobile or a tablet then? You can't log on to your PC and post?
Yes, yeah, sorry, I forgot to address that. No, you can't post from a PC. You do have to transfer your content onto a mobile or a tablet device, yeah.
Brilliant. Because obviously I was looking today at Instagram on the PC, so it's just a visual thing then with regards to PC or Mac. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I've crossed that off my list of questions, but that came through a couple of times as well, so that was good to know. So this came up a couple of times, Hannah, and I'm not sure if it came up in the list of prior questions, but we get it quite a lot when we talk about Facebook. With regards to copyright, I mean, nothing's safe now, is it, when it's online? So
No.
so if you're posting it there, people obviously can access it, and it's so easy to be saved off. So what are you? You're using social media as a marketing device anyway, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did address this at the end, and can you still hear me?
I can. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it'd gone quiet again. So this is a tricky one, basically. As the person who took the photo, I believe I'm right in the law on this, but correct me if I'm wrong, you own the copyright, and therefore if somebody uses the photo without your permission, they're in breach of that copyright. So Instagram is obviously well aware of this law, and they do take it seriously. If you find one of your images stolen on Instagram, you can file a report, which you go to the website on your desktop to do. You'll be contacted by a real person within 24 hours, and they will remove that image as long as you can provide a link to show that it was originally yours. However, in reality, can you police it? No, you can't. And does it bother me? Yes, it does. I see my pictures stolen across Instagram all day long, and it does bother me, but you have to decide how much it worries you. And my take on it is, whatever your art form, if you put your work out there on the internet these days, you've lost control of it. And this is the case for artists, musicians, songwriters. People have always ripped off stuff, they've always plagiarised, and they've always stolen other people's work. And, you know, my pictures are all over Tumblr. I've been emailed them in lookbooks by companies wanting to work with me. I've seen them on businesses' websites, Facebook pages and Instagram pages, and it bothers me more when it's a business using them than it does when it's a personal individual. I think Pinterest has got a lot to answer for, because some people treat their Instagram galleries like a Pinterest gallery, and they just collect images that they like. But basically, if you're putting your pictures on your website, they're just as likely to be stolen as they are from your Instagram. I came across a picture that I'd never posted on Instagram the other day, but that was on Instagram, and somebody had screenshotted it from my website. So that's just as likely to happen to you if your following is similar on your website as on your Instagram. So yeah,
so the key thing there really is to weigh up the pluses and the negatives, and, you know, like you said,
absolutely.
Even, you know, we've had to open our eyes recently, as you and I have discussed about Instagram, because I've seen how fast it's growing, and we saw that with Facebook. But again, you know, it's just seeing what you've shown me over the last few weeks, and obviously watching, you know, Instagram and stuff. It's a beautiful format, like you said. It's an inspirational format. Yes, you could spend the time, you know, putting watermarks all over it, but it's going to spoil the whole point of what you're doing it for.
I know, that's the thing.
And you have built a fantastic, you know, you are a fantastic example of how Instagram works. So, you know, it is just, unfortunately, that it's the same with any social media. Nothing's safe online, as you said.
No, it isn't. And it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to steal my children because they stole a picture of them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they can go out and take the picture that I took because I took it. And I don't know, I just think, you know, I see lots of copies of pictures I've done, but it's okay. I'm having a great time with Instagram and earning a great living from it, so
Would you
That's the
say, from your
difference.
experience, that the majority of viewing of Instagram is via the mobile phone and your iPad or a tablet?
I think most people are online from their mobiles in general these days. I think most people probably view my website from their mobiles as well.
So
Yeah,
the reason I asked is, I suppose, because it's a mobile viewing platform. I mean, the one thing that you could do, I suppose, is you could probably post a smaller image. So it's a small step towards sort of protecting your image rather than uploading a large image. Or am I wrong?
yeah, and I think the thing to remember is all they can ever steal is a screenshot, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny image. They
Yeah.
can't do an awful lot with it. They can repost it from their phone, and it looks fine, but they're never going to be able to blow it up and print it. So really, its effect is probably quite minimal, and it's irritating and sometimes it's upsetting, but on the whole, it's not like they can take that image and print it into even a postcard. It would look absolutely terrible from a screenshot. It's a really tiny file. So, you know, they can't actually download your picture from Instagram. All they can do is screenshot it.
Brilliant. I'm just having a quick scan of the questions, but they are coming through quite quick and fast. So I guess it's probably better that we crack on, and then I'll sort of sift through the questions and then work through
no
what's.
worries.
So back to you, Liv. Thanks.
Okay, so my next point was going to be, if you're posting your, you know, if you're on Instagram to build up your business, I would say don't be afraid of posting lifestyle content. I think people want to invest their follow in someone they can relate to, and they enjoy following along with someone who has got a lifestyle that they like. So, say if you're a wedding photographer, post, I don't know, anything you see as a photographer that catches your eye. It doesn't have to be your clients' photos all the time. If you're a landscape photographer, post the landscapes around where you live or from your holidays, or, you know, make it relatable somehow, because if it is purely just a business account like your website might be, and you're just putting up pictures that you've taken in a professional capacity, then you're not really doing anything different from your website, and it's probably, you know, not going to achieve an awful lot for you. So so yeah, I wouldn't shy away from making it personal. Next one. Oh, sorry, where am I? I've got lost again. Hashtags. Okay, loads and loads of questions came in about hashtags. And basically, what is a hashtag? It's a way of categorizing or labeling an image, collecting images together through a link. So anything that you put the hashtag symbol in front of will create a link to any other image that also has that hashtag or link added to it, if that makes sense. Don't add any full stops or gaps to your hashtags because that breaks the link. The second you type that hashtag onto your image, it goes to that link. So I'm going to try and explain to you how to find hashtags, how to use them, how to add them. Adding hashtags to your pictures is a really important way to open up your gallery to those people who don't yet follow you. Otherwise, you're essentially posting to a private following. Whether if you've got 500 people following you, they are likely to be the only people who see your pictures. Add some hashtags and hopefully your reach is expanded. Avoid generic hashtags. If you put something like landscape, sunset, beach, or newborn, love, girl, these hashtags have thousands and thousands of images posted to them every minute. So yours is going to really quickly disappear down the list. So it's worth looking around, trying to find some more interesting hashtags. I can't give you the magic formula when it comes to hashtags because nobody knows it. Somebody asked me which are the most successful ones, and of course I don't know. I don't know how many people have found my picture through seeing it on a certain hashtag, whether it's one hashtag or another, or whether they found it another way. It's really impossible to say. But I do think that hashtags work, and sometimes I see one of my pictures on Instagram getting 3 times more likes than another one, and it can carry on gaining likes at the rate of, say, 1,000 an hour, and that will go on for, 12 hours after I've posted it, which is not, I don't think that's my followers liking that picture, because generally what people have seen in their feed, it dies away and the engagement dies off after 3 or 4 hours. So I put that down to hashtags. So I think if you're lucky and you get at the top in one of these top posts that you can see in the slide on the right there, then your picture can carry on being seen for 2 or 3 days afterwards. So definitely worth adding. So this is how you search for a hashtag basically. If you were to click on the magnifying symbol at the bottom of the right hand screen, that takes you to the explore page on Instagram, which is what you see on the left hand side. You can see my recent searches there, because I was looking up for those photographers for the screenshots I took for you. So it's top searches, people, users on Instagram basically, tags, hashtags, and places is what people have geotagged. So I searched for Moments of Mine, which is a hashtag I created earlier this year, and you can see from the screenshot from that hashtag on the right, it's got nearly over 60,000 posts in it now. What Instagram changed a few months ago, which was another brilliant update, is they have now given you suggested ones. So where it says related, you can scroll that list to the right and it will show you more hashtags that are related to my hashtag. So similar users are adding them. And this is a great way to find more hashtags which might be useful to you. Another way to find them is find a feed you really admire their work, and you look at the hashtags they're using. You might have to open up their comments and scroll through the comments to see in one of the comments what they've added. Have a look at those. Also have a look out for specific hashtags for features to tag to hubs or competitions that are going on around Instagram. Blah, blah, blah. Right. So yeah, just be aware that certain hashtags you add will be giving people permission to repost your picture, which is a good thing if that's what you want. This is a great way to get your pictures out there on Instagram and to gain more exposure. So some examples of this are these 3 hubs: Flat Lays, Pretty City London, Coffee and Seasons. So you can see in their biographies the hashtags that people are using to add to them. These are brilliant hubs to get a feature with. They get thousands and thousands of likes on everything they repost. So if you're quite a small user, I used to, really try and get features around Instagram in the early days, and the massive excitement of getting a feature that might get, 500 likes, if you're only getting 50 likes on your own page, is fantastic, and you might gain a few followers from it as well. These are obviously really big hubs, and they're getting, 6,000-7,000 likes per picture, so it's exciting, and you can gain a couple of hundred followers from getting a feature with these people. I keep talking away and losing my place. Okay. So once you've found some hashtags that you like, make a list in your notes on your phone and copy and paste it each time you post. This is just the simplest way to do it, rather than trying trying to remember, although helpfully these days Instagram suggests things as you're typing, which, you know, helps things to come up. But this is the quickest way, otherwise you can be there for 20 minutes thinking and thinking after you've posted a picture. Make sure you delete ones that aren't appropriate to the image you've posted, though. There's sort of an Instagram etiquette with not spamming hashtags inappropriately. So you can post your hashtags in your caption, but be aware that people who are scrolling their feed don't want to have to scroll past a huge caption and they're not interested in the hashtags. So I would always suggest posting it in your first comment. Do it as soon as you've posted your picture, because these days the hashtag doesn't stick where you add the comment. I used to add my hashtags a day or 2 days later and it would go to the top of that hashtag. Now it goes down to the time at which I posted the picture. So it's a race against time to get your hashtags on there before there's another 10 pictures added to that hashtag. And then you miss that first flush of people who are looking through the hashtag. So this on the right is an example of a picture I posted yesterday, and my caption, I added moments of mine because it's my hashtag, and hydrangea randomly, which is a bit of a generic hashtag, but I had a private message the other day from a lady saying she didn't know the names of the flowers I posted and please could I make sure I labelled them, so I did. And then I put my chunk of hashtags in my first comment. Somebody beat me to it with their comment, but I was as quick as I could to get those in there. You can use, if I don't bother to do this because mine gets buried quite quickly in other people who are commenting on my picture, but you can use a ... to close up the comment if you want to, and this is something you have to do in your notes, and it's not a ... next to each other, it's on a new paragraph each dot, so that you have, you know, a gap basically. And if you only get 2 or 3 comments below your picture, then it's quite nice to close up that hashtag comment, so that people again don't have to scroll past it and read them all. And then, you know, browse the hashtags you've used and like some pictures from them, because, you know, people will more than likely come back and like some of yours as well. Let's have a look what's next. Okay, posting habits. The most successful users on Instagram, I think, post consistently. Regularly, but not too much. I think once or twice a day is perfect. Your engagement does die away after several hours, so space your pictures out. A lot of people go for once in the morning and once in the evening, 12 hours apart, to keep a sort of constant activity about your feed. I don't have time for twice a day posting. It's just too hectic and too busy in my feed. I do it occasionally if I really need to catch up, but most of the time I'm once a day, and I tend to post in the mornings because for me it gets it out of the way for the day, and then I don't look at Instagram again for the rest of the day. So but basically, if you know, if the best time of day for you is at 10 o'clock at night, then post at 10 o'clock at night, because people who are online at that time will find you. So I think, you know, I think whenever suits you is if you post at 3 in the afternoon, then America's waking up. So great, you'll probably gain American followers. So, you know, but if you're in the UK wanting to gain UK followers, then probably between 7 and 8 a.m. and 7 and 8 p.m. are good times to post. So we've talked about finding your style, but I also think you need to find your voice, and I do think captions are important, and again, be consistent with this. Some successful Instagrammers don't post captions at all, and it's all about the photography. Some post quotations, some post technical information, some chat about the day. Others treat it like a mini daily blog and post long personal captions. I probably fall into the chat about my day category, keep it brief really. Whatever it is you want to say, just think about why people are following you and try and make it comfortable for them to follow you. And finally, the single most important thing you can do to get out of Instagram is engage. Reply to comments, like and comment other people's pictures in return. Not only will your account grow through doing this, but you'll gain a whole lot more from the experience as a whole. One person asked a question, how can you gain popularity without spending all day liking pictures and chatting to other users? Well, I'm not saying spend all day staring at your phone, but really it is an app that the more you put into, the more you get out of. Spend 10 minutes while you're sitting on a train or drinking your morning coffee, just looking at other people's images and interacting with them. If you put a like on there instead of just scrolling past, you're more likely to get a like back, and you'll gain far more from the whole experience for all the reasons I talked about earlier, more than if you just put up an image, close the app and walk away. I think the best way of all, though, to gain followers is to post great pictures consistently, because if you post a bad one, you'll lose followers. So just be someone who is enjoyable to follow. I think that's about it.
Well, don't go anywhere because there's a million questions, as I told you there would be. But thank you. I mean, there was so much to cover tonight, and we did when we spoke. Obviously, it was just, this was all about getting started with Instagram, and I think obviously, I've been making notes frantically, and I'll have the benefit, as well the members to see the recording, and obviously I've got your PowerPoint, so a bit of an advantage there. A question that's come up loads. Really, Hannah, and obviously I don't think we've touched on it as much yet. We get the idea of, I get fully what we're doing. How has it become such a good business tool for you? Have the businesses found you because of your work on Instagram?
Yeah, I think, somebody did ask how I approach brands to collaborate with, and the simple answer is I don't. I'm very lucky, and my job offers just appear in my inbox every day. The most important thing I can do for my business is to keep creating decent content for my own Instagram, and then hopefully brands will keep on getting in touch with me. Absolutely.
I mean, the one, obviously you have a very distinctive style, as you've talked about tonight, and how important it is. So they literally found you. I noticed your latest blog post was the brand. Was it Fat Face? So they approached you. So they're finding you via Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've had some really lovely brands recently get in touch with me, and yeah, it's just a pleasure. They're great to deal with, and yeah.
So I mean, so from a business point of view, from a photographer's point of view as well, obviously I've spent a lot of time learning about Facebook and things like that, and obviously I know that there's interaction with people on people do obviously interact and advertise on Facebook and so on. But the great thing that I've heard from you tonight is that you were found by Fatface on, and you don't really tend to hear those kind of stories coming back. I'm not saying they don't exist on Facebook or any other social media, but it's the first, and I obviously from talking to you over the last few weeks and so on, obviously I know how that, you've built this business via Instagram, which is fantastic. And I know you can build businesses on Facebook, and I'm sure, I don't know about Twitter. There are ways in and out of Twitter, obviously, but we're converted. I mean, Mark and I have spent the morning looking at Instagram, and I'm going to have to build it now for the Photographer Academy. I suppose the hardest thing and this is a question actually that came up, and we'll get into the question now in a second. So from the Photographer Academy's point of view, obviously we've got masses and masses of photography, but it is all very different. So where you've talked about style, obviously, which I get fully, what's your best advice to me then? Because obviously I've got different photographers contributing to the Photographer Academy, and they've got different styles. So when I'm creating my gallery, would you suggest that maybe I try and keep the sort of page style the same as it moves down, so have a section that is all the same, and then?
I think that's a difficult one. It's much more difficult for a business such as yours, where you're going to be featuring the work from different photographers, and I guess my advice was for a single photographer who's posting their own work. My advice would be to find some companies who are doing it well on Instagram and look at how they do it, because I suppose I do what I do, but there is businesses who are reposting images from different styles and doing it really well. One of the biggest Instagram success stories is Daniel Wellington Watches, and they have around 2 million followers now, I think.
Wow.
And they purely repost other people's images, people who tag to them. So inviting people to tag to your business is a great way to collect great work as well. So yeah, it's just worth looking for inspiration, basically. There's always someone out there who's doing it well.
Oh, I will be. That'll be my next. I know it's already my next challenge. But obviously, from
lost down the rabbit hole.
I'm sure from our audience's point of view, obviously what you've done for Smart is brilliant because they are, the majority are individual photographers with styles of their own, so it's perfect.
Great.
Okay, Hannah. So sit yourself down. They're not in any particular order because the questions I've tried to group them, but I'll just hit them as we go. What I will say, and obviously I'm sure you're aware of this, but a lot of things came up when we were talking about uploading to Instagram. A lot of people suggested that things like Lightroom has its own plugin. So, when we were talking about uploading from your PC, by all accounts, there are several apps that allow you to do this. So, but I guess it's just trial and error, really. Obviously, you've obviously referred that you're a Mac person, so your iPhone and your iPad, I'm sure. So, you all find your own ways to contribute, but obviously the Lightroom one is free, but there are loads of different apps out there. Somebody mentioned, and I've used it in the past. Actually, let's ask that question now. So you were talking about scheduling things and using apps to help you with it, and I think yours was Unum, was that right? Did I get that right?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So in the past, I have used, and somebody brought it up for the Photography Academy social media, I used to use Hootsuite. And they said, obviously, you can use Hootsuite to post straight to Instagram. But I was actually advised about a year ago to stop using Hootsuite and actually post, rather than have it sort of spread out from one app to Facebook, to Twitter, to Google Plus, I think it was at the time, that it wasn't actually getting, I don't know if you've got a take on this, but it wasn't actually getting the proper reach that it should.
That's interesting.
I was actually advised to go back to doing it all individually because a lot of the time you probably copy and I know it's obviously taking maybe 2 steps out of 3. The only advantage I remember at the time being to Hootsuite, I don't know if it was Twitter or it might have been Google Plus, but one of the two didn't have the facility to schedule if you did it directly within the program. So Hootsuite sort of gave you the ability to schedule, and I think that's why I did it. But your take, so you're using, but obviously are you posting just to Instagram, or do you have it feed off to your Facebook as well?
I connect, I have a Facebook business page, which has only got, I don't know, 700 likers. Do you have on Facebook? So not great, and on Twitter, tiny. I only started on Twitter a couple of months ago. I basically can't really focus on more than one social media platform, and I hear all the time influencers, as we know, and kind of, having 500,000 on Pinterest and 10,000 on Twitter, but I just can't do it. The more I dilute my energy, the more things start to slip. So basically I decided a while ago to not really bother and just focus on Instagram, which seems to be doing okay for me. But scheduling apps, I came across this question on Twitter, and I know there are plenty of apps out there where you can schedule your posting, but personally I would recommend trying to be present and doing as you're saying, and actually being online on Instagram when you post your picture, because I think if you like a few pictures that are in your news feed at the same time as you're posting, you're there to add your hashtags, you're there to reply to a comment that might be left, you're actually online at the same time as other people who are online, and you're far more likely to engage and interact and gain followers if you're actually present and can set 10-15 minutes aside to post your picture. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so earlier on, we talked about, obviously you talked about, having a style, and then if you maybe did different types of photography, you would consider having maybe different pages.
Yeah.
So obviously, one of the questions was, are you able to have more than one gallery? Is the answer to that yes, is it? Or do you set them
Yeah,
up
you can
separately?
have as many as you want as long as you've got different email addresses for each one. So
So it
I
does.
actually have three, two of which are private. One is a backup to my main gallery because I'm a bit paranoid about being hacked and it all being deleted. So I don't know what it achieves posting it all in the backup, but it's all there in case it vanishes one day. And the other is my personal private, iPhone snaps of my kids with my pants on the head. So yeah, that's what I post in my other one, which nobody needs to see. But
What was
yeah,
in?
I think.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry, no, you go on.
Well, what was interesting to me, and actually it came up in the question panel as you were talking about it, and it was actually something I spotted earlier when I was looking at your Instagram earlier this morning, where you said you'd started that hashtag yourself,
Yeah,
Moments in Time or whatever it was.
moments of mine. Yeah.
Moments of Mine, sorry. So maybe somebody asked to expand on that a bit more, and that also comes from me as well. So by creating that hashtag, I think you said that there was, what, 60,000 posts or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that people using that hashtag that you've created?
Yes. So yeah, it's really nice actually. People have really taken it to heart, and they add it to their photos, and it's just my way of creating a little community. And I did begin featuring from the hashtag and featuring blog post on my blog, some sort of monthly winners, if you like, just personal highlights from the hashtag. And then I ran out of time a bit on that one. I've had such a busy few months, but it's something which I can go back to one day and feature some pictures from it again as a little way of giving back to my followers who add their pictures to that hashtag.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense to me now. But a great way again to bring, as you said, followers to you, but obviously to bring awareness. So if something like that takes off, it can only
Yeah.
be a benefit. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
excellent. Yeah, we've got. I'm just sifting through them quickly. Sorry, lots of people saying about Lightroom, blah blah. Oh, that was interesting, and I made a note of this on my pad to ask you as well. When we were talking about the hashtags, I got a little bit confused, and so did a few people with us. Where you were talking about closing down the comments. Can you just expand on that a bit more? The ... thing. So just maybe we just
Yeah,
need to recap that.
I should have done a screenshot or something to show you. It's not something that I use myself, like I said, but a lot of the time on Instagram you will see when people add their hashtags, Instagram collapses a long comment into a shorter comment, if you know what I mean. So if you add a big gap by copy and pasting, it's really difficult to describe. I wish I'd taken a screenshot. So basically in your notes you would put a bullet point or a full stop and then a new line and another one and then a new line and then another one and then a new line and then write your hashtags. And when you copy and paste that into Instagram, it creates a gap which will disappear that comment so that all people will see as they scroll down is your name to say you left a comment. Look out for it on Instagram and you'll start to see it. A lot of people do it as they add the hashtags so that people don't have to read or scroll past the hashtags that they added if there was a big chunk of them.
Brilliant.
So when you see it, you'll think, oh, that's what she was on about.
Somebody asked, and I presume the answer is open, but again, I don't know. Your account, I presume, or your main account, Anna, is an open Instagram account, right? Can you have private ones?
Yeah. Yes, my other gallery is private, yeah. So you just literally go into the little cog at the top of your gallery page and you can just switch your gallery onto private at any time, which means only people who follow you can see your images.
This came up a couple of times as well. Obviously, and I've noticed it. Obviously, being Facebook is what we've built the Photographer Academy on at the moment. But obviously,
Yeah,
Instagram and Facebook have recently sort of joined forces with regards to advertising. And the paid advertising. So,
yeah.
from your experience, have you done that? Should you do it? I mean, judging just listening to you tonight doesn't sound like you've had to, but what's your take on
No,
that?
I've never done it, and I don't actually see Instagram adverts on my feed either, because every time I've seen one, I've told them I don't like it, so I don't get any. So I'm not massively aware, to be perfectly honest, of some of my friends complain that they get a lot of adverts, but because I've told them I don't want to see them every time I've seen one, I don't have a single one on my feed, and I haven't done for months and months. But no, don't pay for adverts on Instagram at all. It's you don't need to line the pockets of this app. It's, people are on Instagram. People are looking for great photography. Brands are looking for people to, push products to and to pay them to style and post. And I wouldn't recommend it. No, I wouldn't say it's necessary at all.
Okay, brilliant. Somebody asked, and I think the answer, I think I might have the answer, but better to hear it from you. So when you were on Instagram, and obviously you mentioned, was it sorry, the most successful one was a watch company? Is that what you just mentioned?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Daniel Wellington.
So,
Yeah.
so when you're looking at Instagram, and you suggested to me that when I look at Instagram and I look for galleries that might suit me and whether what they're doing and how they're doing it right, how do I gauge? This was the question that came through. How do you gauge a successful gallery? Is it same as Facebook, really, same as like Instagram? Is it based on the amount of followers and the interaction they've got? Is that the best way to gauge how successful somebody is?
I suppose in the terms of success, then yes, but be wary of followers because they can be bought. So look at engagement as well. If somebody's got 100,000 followers but only 400 people are liking their pictures, then there's something a little bit peculiar going on there. But I don't like to judge success on number of followers because there is so many fantastically incredible photographers who I follow who might only have 2,000 followers, and there's definitely an Instagram friendly formula to photography, which isn't necessarily what people should be posting or photographing. There's lots of great photographers with small followings as well.
So from a business point of view then, so from you as a photographer, and obviously you've been lucky enough that you've been interacting with some great brands and it's built your business. If you were having to then, so does it work both ways, I guess is what I'm saying. If you're on Instagram, say, well, let's use Fatface as an example. If you followed, I presume Fatface obviously has their own Instagram account.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Does it kind of work similar to Twitter? Say if you, Hannah Argyle, started following Fatface, is it likely then that they would follow you back? Is that the kind of way to look at Instagram? And so you look at businesses that you're interested in or you like, but I guess it works that way, doesn't it not? Same as Twitter, sort of?
No, I don't know that it does really. It's actually quite difficult to spot the people who follow you. Sometimes I realise somebody is following me, but I have no idea because you only see the last 100 notifications on your Instagram. So I miss most of what goes on my Instagram feed. I sometimes spot comments weeks later because they were left a few pictures down and I didn't see it. So, if I get 1,000 likes in the first half hour after I've posted a picture, you can imagine that I've missed a lot of what's happened if somebody's commented on a photo that were a few pictures ago. So no, I don't necessarily know who's following me, or if I follow a brand, then not that likely to follow me back either. I don't know how people find me really.
So the key thing for me to ask you then, because obviously there's a reason that you're on tonight, because obviously not only are you a great photographer, but you've built a business via Instagram, so obviously it's worked for you. So what you've basically taught us to do tonight is that you build a fantastic looking gallery that is your style, and is you. You add to it you add to it consistently, as you said, and whether that be at least daily, these are exactly the same practices that we've had, I've been doing for Facebook over the last 4 years, so it's just employing that same attitude from what I'm learning from you tonight, is that you just adopt it. It is a tool. It is definitely a tool that is obviously working, and you're proof of that, and we know that it's not just you. We know that there are other photographers out there made Instagram work for themselves, and we've really sort of beaten ourselves up over it, to be honest, because we've sat here and gone, we're a photography company and we do not have it. Mark set up an Instagram page of his own, I think 2 days ago, just out of curiosity, and he's already seen the interaction has started, full on. And what I wanted to do, I could have gone out and started, the Photographer Academy one, when we started talking, but I didn't know it. I needed to be talking to you and listening to you and understanding it, and I didn't want to do it, backwards. I wanted to have the right standing. So, when you get started, and you gave them the best tips in the first 15 minutes. It's plan your profile, it's plan your images, it's scheduling it. All of these things are business tips. They're all, it applies to a business, so it's perfect, really. And like anything, it does take time. I can lose. I have what I call a Tuesday morning, which is my social media day, where I look at the month ahead and I schedule as much as I can. But I'm obviously posting as well when things happen on the fly. It's just working that into your routine, especially if you are using it for your business, isn't it? That's key, really.
It is, and I think my point that I tried to make as well with Instagram is aside from business, and even if you never gain more than 200 followers on Instagram, just really enjoy using it as a really inspirational tool, because it's an amazing place to see fantastic imagery from all around the world every day, and it made me go out and teach myself how to be a photographer, and you just don't get that same hit of inspiration from scrolling through Facebook or Twitter. Even if you follow lots of great photographers on there's just so much other rubbish that jumbles up with your eyes, and I think it's great as a photographer just to be able to see great images every day.
Oh, since you've opened our eyes to it, I agree with you fully. And like I said, I'm not going to beat myself anymore. I've got to get off my backside now.
Get it done.
We've answered quite a lot of the questions. The one thing that came through, the last of the sort of questions really for tonight, Love, is so a few people asked, obviously looking and seeing what we're talking about tonight, they've asked if you were what is the type of client that you have had then? You've talked about, obviously, people want you to photograph their children. I'm also guessing that from what I've seen, you do sort of product, and did I see some food photography?
Yeah.
So what kind of what I guess I'm asking really is what kind of can you just give us an idea of the scope of the different types of photography that you've gained work from via
well, obviously I do newborns and families, and that work is mainly gained through local connections, my Facebook page and word of mouth, but obviously some through Instagram as well. And then brands I've worked for on Instagram, I've done homewares, I've written guest blog posts for the Laura Ashley blog. I'm talking with some of the big homewares companies at the moment as well for similar things. I've done fashion with Fat Face, I've done jewellery and watches, I've done food, oh gosh, loads and loads of different sort of stuff, some styling, some outdoorsy, and I'm creating content now, not necessarily for my Instagram, which is great because obviously the big appeal, I suppose, for a brand is that they get a little bit of a slice of my following if I post a picture on my feed for them, but I've doing more and more now of creating stuff for other companies to use on their own Facebook. But I did something for a healthy sort of snack company recently, which is they're running as an ad on Facebook, and it's had 2 million views at the moment. So it's nice to see things like that as well, different content that I've created popping up in different places.
Oh, it's brilliant. And I was, like I said, we've looked several times over the last few weeks at your Instagram, and I saw at first, because of your style, I didn't actually, it's definitely, before I put my foot in it, is a compliment, obviously, because obviously very beautiful photography. But it was over the last couple of days when I've looked closer at your Instagram, and I've realised the scope and the variety that was there, from the food to the products to the placement to obviously the lifestyle as well. So it's just like, well, hang on a minute, this isn't a one-trick pony. This is somebody who can turn their hands to a lot of different things, and and I get it. It's a beautiful style that is very, very sellable, and I think that's why it's been very successful for you, and I'm sure it will be grow from strength to strength. Well, I will be watching you. Well, we've already discussed, so hopefully we're going to be working closer together. We're getting there, love, and I know we've taken up enough of your time. Somebody's just asked quickly at the end there. So how do you, this is a great question, I suppose. I don't know the term, but how do you deal with trolls, and can you just simply delete them?
Yes, and I've got a friend who had a nasty comment recently on a picture of her daughter, and delete, block, report the comment. You don't have to put up with that. But I have to say, I don't know whether I've just been incredibly lucky, but I don't really invite controversy in my captions or in my pictures, I guess, but I've really not had any nastiness at all. A little bit when I was a suggested user, which was nearly 2 years ago, when you gain a lot of new followers, and a lot of sort of 10-year-olds on their mum's phones who think it's funny to tell you your photo's rubbish. But other than that, honestly, people are nice on Instagram, and if people don't want to say something encouraging, they tend to not say anything at all. So yeah, it amazes me every single day that people leave nice comments on my pictures.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Hannah, from me to you, thank you. There's a list of praise and thanks that have come through the chat panel as well. Thank you, for everything you've done. I know that you were very nervous doing this for me, and I do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm sure it's the first of many, and obviously we've discussed about trying to get you more visible on the Photographer Academy, and obviously, and to remind everybody that they can interact with you, Instagram. That's where you find. That's where to find us.
Absolutely, that's where I am.